All right, everyone. Hope you are doing well. I am so sorry. Totally my fault. We ran into some unexpected tech issues. Translation, I totally forgot to turn something on, but it's great to see you. I'm joined by Dr. Toni O'Planick. Toni, it's great to see you. Um,
Nice to be
uh,
here. Yes.
and we're kind of pseudo matching today, which is cool. um, I'm so grateful for you. Before we even get started, you're doing some pretty amazing stuff in the world in terms of your work as a psychologist, but even in the world of course creation. I mean, who would have thought when we graduated from grad school that we'd be creating online courses? But here we are, and I'm excited for us to dive into your journey.
Awesome.
Well, I was trying to think about a bunch of different questions, but maybe the first one is it's not exactly the norm for therapists, um, for even quiet builders, because most of us tend to be kind of building under the surface, right? And it's not really the norm for any of us to build online courses or even think about an online course. What made you even entertain that? What were you seeing in the clinical setting? What were you seeing with life? That kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, Mel, we talk about this a lot. Just you get into this field because it's something you love doing and you want to do, and you think you can do something here. And I don't know, right around that 5, 10, 15 year mark, you start to think about, hey, how can we at least mix it up? Do something a little bit different, keep it fresh for yourself, but also, I don't know, stay like in with the times. I mean, even just the idea of people used to do therapy one to one, and it was crazy to imagine doing that virtually and digitally. So just keeping up with the digital component of this, it's kind of like, okay, a constant evolution. How do we like keep doing something new and keep growing, not just to stay relevant, but just to also keep it interesting, and
Yeah.
and keep myself awake and energized to keep doing this. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so beautifully said. I mean, I was even thinking about like even the evolution of our field, right? Like I remember in grad school, like there used to be that phrase of like, yeah, you used to just be able to hang your shingles up and then you'd have like a full private practice, and even how the field has had to
Hmm.
evolve, right? With, online directories and putting websites up and thinking about SEO and local SEO and all of that stuff, right? And so you're absolutely right. Like, and I think the other point you made, I think, is a wonderful one, which is, yeah, it's not just like creating a course for the sake of creating a course. It's more thinking, I think, holistically about our careers. I know for me personally, like you alluded to it, like after, when you're going through training and then you get licensed, those first 5 years, you're just trying to find some sort of footing, and then once you finally do, you're like, oh, I wonder if there's like other opportunities and other interesting things that I might be able to do.
Yeah, yeah, and I think another thing that really made me think about it is, especially when you're getting into your groove and you're finding your niche, and I don't know, not the first year, not the second year, not the fifth year, not the seventh year, but you start to hear yourself say the same things over and
Mm,
over again, even if you're working with different people. And please, like, the business of therapy is nuanced and tailored to everyone that you're seeing, but just this, like, wow, yeah, there's some patterns here, like some reoccurring conversations that I'm
mm,
having. So I think for me, that was the other thing that got me starting to think, like, whether it's how do I run a group and maybe capture more people at one time, or how do I start thinking about writing a book and capturing more people at one time? And then just the idea of courses during COVID. I don't know, that was a surge, right, of
yeah.
people thinking about this idea. So, how can
Yeah.
that apply here? Maybe, right? Yeah.
Yeah. No, absolutely. You said something so beautiful, which was, I think when we keep saying the same thing over and over broadly in therapy, right? I think what I've noticed is broadly there's like two paths, right? So one is maybe three. So one is folks are okay with that and they continue on that path. Second one is they continue on that path, but they're like teetering on the edge of burnout, right? Or like outright leaving the
Hmm.
profession. And then there's like, I think the third, which is like what you seem to have done, which is you take that as data and don't like personalize too much, but to be like, hey, I keep saying the same thing. How do I think about like leverage with that information versus just that one to one? What made you transition or think about it in that third framework?
Yeah, I think that word leverage, or we talk about scale a lot. Like, how
Mm-hmm.
do we scale this to a little bit more? And then I'll say the big thing that makes you start to think about it is just like the intersection of your personal life,
Mm-hmm.
and thinking about a lot, just trading, time for income. And I can only talk to one person at a time, in a one to one situation. So, yeah, just starting to get the wheels turning. Like, there's got to be, in addition to the one to one model, because please, that's not broken. It's not going anywhere anytime soon, right? But is there another way, to start thinking about this in a more economical way? And now, yeah, I think here we have it. I don't know. It
Yeah.
feels like this makes a lot of sense. Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. For those of you guys that are watching live and even after watching the replay, we're so grateful you're here. Thank you for joining us. We genuinely want to make this very interactive. So, as you have
Mhm.
questions for Toni, and as even as you have reflections or statements that are powerful or you're hearing, please drop them in the comments. I can actually see them here, and so we can pop them up on screen and have a conversation and stuff like that. Um, Toni, you said one of the things is that intersection of the personal, and I think, I'll just speak for myself. Like, I think are two things. One is, when I had gotten licensed 13 years ago, and about 3 years in, we got hit by that nor'easter because I know we're here, both here in the Philadelphia area.
Mhm.
And that made me realize like telehealth was not a thing back then. I remember the group practice owner was like, hey, try to do phone sessions. And I was like, I think people are panicking. I don't think anybody wants, and there were down power lines and all this stuff, right? And that made me realize. But the real thing is, I've shared this online before, but our daughter was born 7.5 weeks early, and she ended up needing almost 13 months of early childhood intervention because she wasn't sitting up the age she was supposed to. And it I was, just because of my flexibility with my job, I had to kind of be the person that was, make sure I was here when the physical therapist came, and multi, several times a week appointments and all
Mhm.
that. And so it was not like I was, personally, for me, I was definitely thinking about like leverage and thinking about like scaling, but I was also, there was a real practical life thing, which was, how do I generate things without, outside of the W-2 situation, right? But that doesn't require me to be there to create that income.
Right. Yeah, and I often thought about it too. I mean, we think about the prime time spots too for
Mm,
psychotherapy, right? That 4, 5, 6 o'clock hour, and how that works really well for clients and patients, and starts to wear on providers, right?
mm,
So even just thinking about it that way, that starts to become pretty limiting. Like, how do I fit my life to work around, this 4, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock hour?
mm,
And I think the thing that helped me change my thinking around this too is it's not necessarily this like selfish endeavor that I need, everyone to work around me and my personal life and, my kids or my family and my choices. But I also started to realize like clients and patients can't always make that work either. It's not this perfect, like I can show up at your open spot and I can afford to pay, at this time, on a weekly basis. So I think that's something that helped me shift a little bit too, to say this isn't just for me to make this more flexible and work better with my life, but
mm.
something like a course offering or something else would actually make it more accessible for other people too.
Yeah,
They're not all fighting over a couple of afternoon
yeah,
primetime spots, to
yeah,
get the information that could be distributed potentially a different way.
yeah. I used to have an old supervisor that used to talk about like, Mel, like always think about and both, not either or, right? And it sounds
Mm-hmm.
like you took a very and both sort of approach. Like, how do I serve my family and the business I want to build, and how do I serve clients so they're not fighting over like a limited amount of slots, primetime spots, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Um,
Yeah.
just shifting a little bit, I had a question which was related to so you've spent a number of years focusing on sleep. You've got a lot of training in that area. You know, I talk with enough both therapists and quiet builders when they're thinking about an online course idea. I see one of two things. One is like, Mel, I want to, you know, I have expertise in this area and I want to create a course in there. The other is like, I want to create a course in this completely like unrelated often area. How did you hone in on like just saying like, hey, this is my wheelhouse. This is what I want to create a course on. Like, what was your thought process behind
Hmm.
that?
Yeah, I mean, and for me, this kind of starts veering into talking about CBT-I for insomnia too. It's just so beautifully situated for this course format. It's something that it's already a standardized protocol. It's something that's supposed to be, the standardized thing where the creators would like you to have similar conversations with similar people and roll it out in standardized ways. So for me it just felt like this is a no-brainer. This is something that's begging to be put through this format. But it's funny, Mel, you talk and I'm like, oh, maybe this isn't the only thing, that can
Mm-hmm.
be situated to fit this format. There's so
Yeah.
many other things that potentially I find some patterns in the ways that I'm talking about it and the ways that people want to receive it. But to answer your question, it's just, oh my gosh, this is like, it was a no brainer for me. Like, this
Mm-hmm.
needs to happen. I keep quietly praying that no one else catches it before I can get this done because it just seems like, oh my gosh, how has this not been done already? So
Yeah.
it feels like it's built for this in some way, especially these manualized protocol treatments. I think that's the benefit of them is like, hey, how can we roll this out to a lot of people at once? It's just traditionally, how can we roll this out to a lot of people in a one-to-one model where I think there's some room for that. The
Yeah.
execution can be
Yeah.
evolved a little bit. Yeah.
Absolutely. There's a little in you've been sharing. There's like a little nuance, which is something I've struggled with, which is you see the data and you're like, I want to do this thing, and then the other voice inside of your head is like, who are you to be the person doing this thing? How have you?
Exactly.
Yeah. Also, how have you navigated that? I mean, I think it's just it's such a real thing. I think all of us
It
struggle
is.
with.
Yeah, and that's why I keep thinking like how have like, the big like the guy at Oxford that does CBTI, how has he not
Mm,
done this yet? Or,
mm,
the guy at Harvard, all these big people when like I'm just Toni O'Planick in Philadelphia, who's taken yeah, some CBTI trainings and has some experience, but why would it be me? Right.
mm,
And
mm.
um I don't know, Mel. I think like as you're going through this, that's definitely that doubt creeps into your mind. But the mastermind course has been so helpful in saying, you know what, um, you have a way of communicating this information that is very
Mm,
personal to you. And I've also gotten the good feedback. When people come to one-to-one or one-to-one therapy with me, they're getting some great results, and it's from the CBTI. But I'll take some credit for that. There's some of that must be in some of the relationship or some of the
yeah.
delivery. So that feedback has been really helpful and confidence boosting a little bit to say, like, like, why not me? I've digested the information. I can help people with this information too. Um, and then I'll say it's not as easy as just like typing it up into some PowerPoint slides
Mm,
and getting people to pay for it.
yeah.
There's some science, but some art there to figuring out how do I make this something that people gravitate toward, that they can use.
Yeah, which I think you're bringing up another great point, which is, I think a lot of times folks that are considering even joining our mastermind or starting a course, they're like, I have to have this idea like 100% fleshed out. Otherwise, like, there's no point in starting. And I know for you, like, you had some, like, a decent chunk of it fleshed out, but there were still some unknowns. And I feel like even in the past six
Hmm.
months, you've gotten quite a bit of feedback from, everyone. And you've made some iterative tweaks with it, right? So what,
Absolutely. Yes.
yeah, so can you kind of walk us through that? Like, what made you still jump in even though it was like half baked still?
Yeah. Again, for me, I felt like fortunate because it was at least half baked. And that's where I
Mm,
felt like, okay, like I can do this. But looking
mm,
back, I'm thinking, like, you know what? Even if it was 20% baked or 10% baked
mm,
at this point, there's still something there. And I think you do a really good job of encouraging people who are ready for this too. It's not necessarily something that is for, a person that's just starting out on their therapeutic, journey, who's still figuring out what they want to talk about, and one-to-one models. That, this is for people who've developed some kind of momentum,
mm.
in at least one direction or two or three directions. That I think the mastermind helps kind of focus in on, like, okay, let's start with one of these directions and see if we can flush something out there. Um, but it's also about kind of trusting the process and saying, you know
Yeah.
what, like that's actually a lot of the purpose of doing this, is helping to flush that out and to, help to fine tune it and focus it a little bit more.
Yeah, and I just wanted to like normalize that too. Like, thank you for sharing all that. Like, it's really vulnerable to share course ideas, particularly even with other colleagues,
Yeah.
right? And because I think, our experience is usually like, I don't know, supervision or something, right? Like in practicum or internship or whatever, right? Like, and it really is hard, but I don't know, and I think we've played a small role in it. I think it's y'all that have been the bigger role in this, which is there's a element of safety and it's like a unique space, right? Where clinicians, quad builders can come and there isn't it's not a, like a, like some space there's like a sense of competition. Let me try to steal what you're doing. It's more like, and I was wondering if you could sort of like, did you have any of those fears coming in? And if so, like, how did you navigate that? And even what have you found about the mastermind itself?
Yeah, I think I could have had those fears coming in
Mm,
if I had no exposure to you and to kind of the vibe,
mm,
prior to coming in. But I'm a person that's followed the podcast for a long time, so I kind of get the gist, and I think if there was a competitive edge to that, I would have known about it coming
mm.
in. So I don't know if that's kind of speaking and giving some credit to you, that like you're already developing that sense of community, that it's not going to be competitive. This is something that's more of a supportive
Mhm.
environment.
Yeah.
And even if I had a doubt about it before coming in, I think that would have vanished super quickly, because we're all out here trying to do the same thing.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. It's a curated group, that's for sure, right? Of
Yep.
people who all here with the right intentions, yeah, and the
Yeah.
same motivations to support each
Yeah.
other. It's like, of course, I always joke, like, of course you get a bunch of therapists in a room, you know what I mean? And this is what happens. It
Yep.
would be kind of weird if we were all at each other's throats and competing. That's just not who we are as people. So,
Yeah.
no
No.
shocker. It's a supportive environment. Of course it is. Yeah, definitely.
No, it's a, yeah, it's a really, and we try to like highly curate the group,
Yeah,
based on several factors, and one of the biggest ones is like generosity, right? Like, who are you as a person? Like,
yeah,
and uh Toni, just shifting a little bit, I know that, especially, even when I did a live stream of this like 6 months ago, right? This was not even something that was really happening, which is this AI sort of surge here in the last like 6 months or so,
yeah.
where, it's everywhere. It's touching on every, you know, like industry, everything, right? Like, you get on LinkedIn, it's really hard to tell which posts are AI generated versus real. It's
Hmm.
getting better and better. And I think those of us that are watching, whether we're current course creators or future course creators, I think there's like a real fear of like, man, like if AI can spin up a course outline in like 30 seconds, like how in the world am I going to stand out in a world like that? And how have you navigated that? I know we've talked about a bunch of different things in our mastermind. I was wondering if you could just give us
Mhm.
a peek inside.
Yeah, the AI stuff has been so crazy for me, and I'm so thankful that you do a lot of research on that and you talk so confidently about it and you can kind of bring that information to us. But it's wild. It's like the wild wild west. I don't know. It's something that I wasn't really anticipating, but when I think about it, and again for me, I feel like I'm a little bit more focused because CBTI
Mm,
has already been a thing, like people have written books about CBTI. You can Google CBTI. There's like there are free, resources for CBTI if you can just Google those things. So AI is kind of that on steroids, I guess, where
yeah.
like the information has always been accessible to people, but has it been digestible? And I think AI is doing a better job of that for sure,
Mm,
in a lot of ways, but it still is not, despite its advances, going to take the place, of
yeah.
a person, being able to translate those things, for people and be an actual relationship. So, I think in my mind, that's the way I think of it. It's like, okay, well, this is the CBTI book on steroids. This is the Googleable information on steroids, in a much more digestible way. And it's still not, me, right? It's still not us, who we are as people. So I've really enjoyed learning how to take advantage of AI and
Mm,
how to use it, as a supportive mechanism and as that virtual assistant, but still kind of like, I don't know, like retaining the humanity, right, of who
mhm.
we are as people and figuring out a way to put that into the course because, yeah, people could just Google this information. People could just, put it into AI, or to a chat GPT, but um, we could do a little bit better than that. We are better than that. So figuring out a way to layer some humanity and, relational stuff in there.
Yeah.
People still are looking for that. Yeah, they're still looking
Yeah,
for that.
no, absolutely. I mean, my sense is like from everything I've seen, and like, I think when you layer in humanity and then when you have specialized knowledge, like AI can't replicate specialized knowledge. And then when you layer in like personal experience and stories that can speak to depth and soul, that's
Yes.
really, really hard to do that, right? And so, um, not to put you on spot, like I know we've covered done a bunch of different like AI related exercises from thinking about like anti-fragility to like all of that.
Hmm.
Like, can you take us a peek inside of like something that you did like inside of our mastermind that you were like, oh my gosh, I didn't even think of something in that way.
Oh my God, there's like so many. Yeah, I feel like weekly in this group, there's it always happens that someone's like just mind gets blown, you know what I mean, from using AI in some component. And I don't want to make it sound like it's just an AI free for all, right? But um, I'm just thinking about the organizational piece. I mean, that's been like astronomically helpful for me is figuring out how to use AI to help me be more organized and orderly and um, to get my act together essentially. It's also helped me with this like momentum thing about like, okay, so at the end of the prompt working on it always invites me to do the next thing, which is like very helpful in keeping the momentum moving. So I don't know, it's just been like a tool to use all over the place, but just like generally speaking, it's been, yeah, super helpful
Yeah,
with the
no,
practical
absolutely.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's been great. It's been great, like hearing each of y'all, like how you're thinking about it. I mean, I think one of the things that we even rolled in with our mastermind this time is like, we were like, why don't y'all create like spaces within ChatGPT, right? Like, for example, like your course marketing space, and then take some of the learnings. We record all of our lessons using Fathom, so we have access to transcripts and stuff like that. So there's ways that you can then pull that information into your space, so you're essentially taking the knowledge that you're gaining in our live calls and then synthesizing that and applying it to your own course. And I don't know, it's just there's something really powerful about like kind, smart people just being together and talking, and also people that are seasoned business owners. Tony
Hmm.
alluded to it, like, all of us are 5+ years into this like business journey. And so it's not just like I'm started my business like 2 months ago. It's like I've been in this arena and I've had to navigate multiple things from COVID to telehealth to, all these things. So when you
Right.
take that like lived experience, I think there's something incredibly powerful about the insights that are shared.
True. Yeah, absolutely true. Yeah.
Um, what what made you sign up for the mastermind? Like, what was it like? Why was that the best option? Because I mean, you're smart, you're accomplished, right? You could have done this on your
Thank
own.
you. Yeah. I could have, but I didn't. That's for sure. So, and trust me, I tried definitely. So, I don't know if that helps anyone to hear, but I would imagine people at this stage, if they're thinking about it, it's
Mm,
something that they've outlined a course in their mind. They've outlined it a couple of times in the notes app in their phone, or, taken some notes in a Word document or whatever. So, yeah, trust me when I say I tried, definitely. And
mm,
not that if it would be impossible to do, but looking back now, I'm like, oh my gosh, like, okay, this is what I needed to get this done. And I was very open with you the first time that we met to be like, I need to finish this. Like, is this the thing to help
mm,
me to get this done? And I'll never forget, like, walking out of that first meeting with you, I was like, I think that it would be really hard for me to, graduate from this mastermind, get through this mastermind, and not get it done at this
mm,
point. So that's the
mm,
level of confidence that I had, that it feels like this is the tool, that
mm,
needs to happen. Um, because I think on my own, I was trying tools. I was trying to use a little bit of AI here, like trying to carve some things out to get some extra support to get it done. I didn't really know that this was the form of support that I needed to get it done. That it's the practical momentum. I think the other thing appealed to me about the mastermind too was it's not just like, hey, we're a work group that let's do step one this week and step two this week. It's not just the practical stuff. For me, it was really clear early that, like, oh, we're talking about mindset here. Like, we're
mm,
talking about kind of bigger picture stuff here, like big idea stuff. That it's not just step one, step two, step three, check some
mm.
boxes on creating a product. That it's more thoughtful. Um, and then, sorry if I'm rambling, but the last thing I want to say too about that is just, it wasn't about like, hey, come and get this one course idea finished and then like buy, this one product and then you're finished. For me, it's more about the evolution of yourself as a business owner, and evolving as a person that is thinking on the next level. And I imagine that's going to be helpful, like far beyond just one CBT-I course. So
Yeah, yeah.
that's
No,
been the attractiveness for me, if that
yeah,
helps.
no. Well said. I think we try to focus really heavy on the mindset piece because again, most of us have not like didn't go to grad school thinking we're gonna go like create an online course. So, and it is such a shock to the system of like thinking this is where I thought my career was going, and now I'm making this shift. And who, everything from who am I to what will friends and family and colleagues think to, and so we, even within the mastermind, every month we have a specific hour where we just focus on mindset and we tackle like one thing that all of us are navigating, and we just dive really deep into it, have vulnerable conversations, honest conversations, and I think there's just
Mhm.
something incredibly like powerful about it, for sure. As you guys are continuing to engage, please leave comments in this, and we can say, or even at least just hit the thumbs up to let us know you're there. If you guys are joining us live, thank you. Uh, Tony, I have just like a few more questions for you. Can you take us inside of the mastermind? What has it been like for you? Like, what are some of the sessions that have been broadly or specifically that have just been helpful?
Sure. Yeah, and for me, I think uh, it's helpful to think about like, okay, this is where the execution happens. Like these are the 2 hours, and it's not the only 2 hours a week, right, that I'm executing and getting things done. But again, I can like enter these 2 hours and know for sure, like I'm getting something done, whether I want to or not, almost, I mean, like, Mel, and you have a way of being like, okay, now we're going to do it. So let's start working. And I think that's great. It's not just a, hey, let's talk about this work we're going to do when everyone leaves the room and goes about their day. It's like, nope, let's take the next 15 minutes. Like, let's get this done. So it's this really great mix of, talking about what we're doing, planning to what we're doing, and then actually executing what we're doing. And then once you, I don't know, once you take the edge off and you do the first 10, 15 minutes, it just like seems so much more manageable from there. It's like this momentum that starts to build. You find like, okay, this is doable. It's like building your confidence, right? To actually get the rest done. So that part's awesome. I think there's also this benefit, like you alluded to, just we're all here doing the same thing. So it's not just me in isolation that's doing
Mm.
this. There's other people who are in the same boat doing very different, but the exact same thing at the same
Yeah.
time, which is kind of wild the way that works out. I don't know if I would have expected to feel that way because I'm like, oh, I'm talking about sleep. Someone else is talking about vagal nerve responses, and ADHD. So it's like the things are kind of all over the map as to what we're talking about. But like, wouldn't you know, like we are all seeming to talk about the same thing. So there's that component. And then I don't know if I had to say, I think the third is just, your presence too. So this is not just, someone who's thrown a shingle up and to see what happens. Like you are very gracious in saying, hey, I did this. This is where it didn't go well. And this is where it did go really well. And we're all able to gain from that experience that you bring in too, which is awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think broadly, I think what we're trying to create with the mastermind is like we're all still learning, right? Like some of us have been there a little longer, but the underlying thing is there's still stuff we're picking up. And, for example, then there's like external
Mm-hmm.
factors like AI, for example, that you're like, okay, now I have to factor this in and think through this as a course creator. And how do I approach that with like intention and all of those things? Um,
Yeah.
even this was a very recent thing. I was like, I saw y'all's faces when we did this workshop, but I think it was so good where we worked on scripting a mock video. And then, do you remember, like, I had y'all, okay, can you walk us through
Yeah.
what happened? So, this is kind of the realness of what we try to do in the moment. So,
Yeah, I mean, we were all like, okay, and now go. And I don't even know if half of us knew what we were actually talking about, but that wasn't the point. It wasn't about like, are you saying it perfectly? Are these the curated, edited words that you're using? But for that exercise, it was more like, well, now you're on camera. And
mm,
I know we're all a little bit more used to doing that than maybe before COVID and before Zoom, but there is still something, I don't know, about hitting that record button and it just being you and you. So,
mm,
yeah, we did this great exercise. Everyone's like, all right, go, prepare 5, 10 minutes of what you're going to say. And that was all fleshed out before. So we all, separated and did this record thing. And then I think you're laughing because at some point we all realized that the video only captured like 20
30
seconds. You know what I
seconds.
mean? What
Yeah,
we were
I
actually
only I
talking
only
about.
realized that after too. I was like, oh, whoops, that didn't quite work out. But the theory. I mean,
But it didn't matter because at
yeah,
that point, it's
yeah,
almost like, well, everyone was already on stage. So here we
yeah,
are. Like that was
yeah,
the hardest part to begin with anyway, is
yeah,
just hitting that record button and sometimes just seeing your own face and hearing your own voice.
mm,
So it's like, mission accomplished. Like even if we didn't get through 10 minutes of content, beautiful prepared content, right?
yeah,
We all did the thing that we needed to do, which was like bite the bullet and put yourself out there. Yeah.
yeah. And the
Yeah.
caveat to that, y'all, if y'all watching this live, don't worry. This is like well into the mastermind when there is that trust and safety and all of that stuff built. But the
Yeah.
practical, I mean, what we're always trying to think about is like, because I know for all of us are like smart and accomplished, so the natural tendency will us is to take information and just like intellectualize it, right? But what we're trying to do with the mastermind is do what we call like little mini risks, right? Things that are like, okay, this is the thing. It's gonna be a little bit difficult, but it's gonna be so much easier because now you've recorded a video and then put it in front of colleagues, and now it's gonna be so much easier for you to record your own video and
Yeah.
and put it in front of others. So um
Well, and I hope this reference makes sense, but it's like the Karate Kid, right? Like you Karate Kid it, where you're like, okay, we're going to practice this thing and you don't really understand how it might benefit you later, but it's like painting the fence, and then later it's going to make so much more sense as to why this like little 20-second video set you up for so much success later.
mm,
It just
mm,
feels like so much more doable, and you're like, oh, that wasn't a big deal. Like I
yeah.
absolutely know how to do this now. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. It's those little ripples that lead to the big stuff later. Tony, I think the last question I had for you was, what's something encouraging that you would share with a colleague who's perhaps watching our live stream and thinking about launching an online course and even joining our mastermind, but they've kind of just been on the fence, or they're like, ah, I can just do it like, next year or a year after or something like that.
Yeah, and I would say to be encouraging, like, I get it. That was me. I think
Mm,
that's all of us that are actually in the mastermind. So you're in good company. If you're even thinking about it, that's probably telling, right? Thinking about it, to be reading some of the emails that you're sending out, Mal, too, but also to just even be listening to this live. It's like, um, that's telling. You're invested. You're already half baked, like you said, that there's
mm,
already probably something there if you're giving it that thought. That for me, this is the thing that took that bit that's already kind of percolating a little bit,
mm,
and yeah, like, I don't know, brought it to fruition a little bit. So, um, that to me is what this does. It's not because everyone's kind of coming with some loose ideas, you know what I mean? Everyone's coming with something, but it's like the execution. Oh my gosh, that's what I needed the most help with. I think that's what everyone needs the most help with is how do we take it from an idea, right, to this thing that actually gets done. So it's the next step. I don't know. It's like the
yeah,
most important step too. I mean, I
yeah.
think like, please, I always joke about how many ideas I have, for books and all these things and even hobbies that I want to do, right? Or all these good intentions, but the execution is the part that's where I know I need the most support. So I think that's what you offer. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've learned this also in my own journey, right? Like if there's something that you want to do that's like moderate to hard, right? Like either you can sort of go through it, but you're all often going to accelerate the journey and it's just going to be a lot like financially and time-wise, like a lot more just beneficial if you actually learn or are in a community of people that are doing the thing that you want to do, because that feedback and all of those kind of things. Tony, before
Yeah.
we get off, I want to just make sure we plug and share. So you're over at Align
Yeah,
Psychological
thanks.
Health, and I know. I mean, obviously, we've talked a lot about insomnia. How are you? Maybe this is kind of the last question. How are you thinking about this with related to private practice, the course? Like, where is all of that going to fit in the overall ecosystem of how you're thinking about everything? And the website is beautiful, by the way. So,
Thank you. I know. I told you I just finished updating it, so it's good timing, yeah, to have a look at it. But I don't know. I said this word at the beginning of the conversation, but it's like the evolution, which
mm,
doesn't mean that I'm planning on ditching the old stuff or losing the one-to-one model or continuing to think about these other things. But it's like, okay, this is a place I think I could focus some energy for the next foreseeable future that feels like it's like tangible, right? So the CBT-I stuff seems like, I mean, I'm a health psychologist, so it's not completely out of my realm, you know what I mean? To imagine that, like, okay, well, let's focus here for a little bit. And this is such a thing that feels like it's just right for the picking, in this format. And I don't plan on necessarily stopping talking about it one-to-one either. So
Mm,
it's been the thing that's helped me to get to this place. So I can't imagine not doing that anymore.
mm.
But this seems like the evolution, the add-on, the next step.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And yeah, and just, I don't know, it's thinking, I mean, thinking about what we're doing as a skill set, right? And the skills that we're acquiring and the specializations and thinking of a skill set that we can deploy beyond just clinical work, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, um, Toni, I'm so grateful for you. Thank you again
Oh, thanks.
for
Yeah.
just being willing to do this. And then if folks want to get in touch with you, like what is the best, can they email you? What's like, or can they reach out? What's like the best way to do that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, my all my information's on the website too, so that's the best way to reach me. There's a little
Okay.
inquiry form. I mean, that's more directed towards, patients that are coming in, but I'd be happy to answer any questions too. So please, yeah. I know what
Awesome.
it's like to be in your boat. Yeah, to be in your situation thinking about this for sure.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Toni, appreciate you so much and have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, you too.
All
Bye.
right. Bye, everyone.